welcome to another episode of Essentially Heroes. You got me, your boy Etienne, joined as always by my good buddy, partner of crime,
Johnny Farris, formerly of Rusty Ferris Wheel Productions, soon to be known as Essentially Heroes, coming to you live from Hallandale Beach, Florida. What up, what up? I know we talked a lot about that in the last pod, in the Apocalypse pod, of what comics generally have addressed and dealt with this sort of thing. It was depicted in the biggest comic book movie of all time, Avengers Endgame, where you had half the universe completely eliminated, focused primarily on Earth. It would have been cool if they focused on other planets and they saw that other neighborhoods and communities were dealing with this and alien cultures, but they didn't. This is where we are now, but perfect time, I think, to get into the villains, to get into who we love, who we want to see again, who hasn't been depicted.
Coming from, I guess, the 90s and before, where, you know, most villains were kind of just badass amateurs for the heroes. Like, they literally just exist to prove how badass the main character is, and that's kind of it. Like, they don't really, they don't have anything else to them. Sometimes they have compelling backstories, but that's wasn't really a requirement in the past. And yeah, they're, I mean, not to come at it from too much of a, I guess, media snob perspective, but their motivations weren't really all that interesting because the writers didn't want you to really feel anything for these characters for a lot of times. Like, that's not the case with all of them. Like, you have characters like Venom, like in Lethal Protector, where he's doing all these not typically heroic things, but it still makes you feel for Venom and Eddie Brock because they're just well-written characters with, you know, psychologies that you can understand.
Right.
And they expand on that more in the movie that came out as well.
Right.
But
right.
So yeah, going back to Thanos, that really brings it to a head in terms of villain writing, where you have a villain that can almost be seen as the main character of the film, and in a way he was, like, at least in terms of Infinity War, Thanos could in a way be described as the main character of the film because one, right, he has the most screen time out of any character.
Is that true?
It is true. Like, people calculated out the screen time in minutes for every character in the film, and Thanos was number one, followed
that's awesome.
by, that's dope, right?
Wow.
And I forget if
it's got to be Iron Man. It's got to be. Iron Man.
I believe Iron Man is number 2. And I don't think Captain America was number 3. I think it might have been somebody else. Like, I would have to go back and look at the exact like numbers for everybody, but Thanos was definitely number 1. And I just thought that was really cool because, like, you've never really seen that before, where the antagonist gets the story told from their perspective.
Sure.
Like, the only other example of that I can think of is, this kind of dips out of the superhero realm a little bit, but Death Note, the manga and anime series. Are you familiar with Death Note?
No.
Okay. Well, basically, it is a story where this high school student finds a notebook that falls out of the sky, and he finds that if you write a person's name in the notebook and you picture their face, they die. And you can write out the way that they die, or if you don't specify a way, then they'll die of a heart attack in 40 seconds. And so,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty metal, right? And yeah, so this student uses the book to pretty much eradicate the world of any people that he deems as bad or evil. So he starts he starts by, you know, just executing any like criminals or, you know, wanted people that he can get his hands on through the news or anything like that, using the logic that, you know, he's making the world a better place. And then this detective ends up catching on to him and starts piecing together, you know, the whereabouts and his motivations and all this stuff, and then it becomes this psychological cat and mouse game between them. And and then, you know, of course it's like a Heisenberg situation where, you know, as he continues, he starts to, you know, go down darker and darker paths.
Kill me? Is that really the right thing to do? Since Kid's appearance 6 years ago, wars have stopped, and global crime rates have been reduced by over 70%. But it's not enough. This world is still rotten, with too many rotten people. Somebody has to do this! And when I first got that notebook all those years ago, I knew I had to do it. No, I was the only one who could. I understood that killing people was a crime. There was no other way. The world had to be fixed. A purpose given to me.
Yeah, I always found that as a very interesting, you know, dynamic between the antagonist and the, I suppose, protagonist characters, that they kind of switch viewpoints a little bit. And yeah, so that's where the bar has been set in terms of villain characters. And I don't know if that's it's definitely a good thing, but that makes it harder for every other villain who comes after him, right? Because
absolutely,
yeah, there'll always be that little voice in the back of your head that's like, you know, he wasn't as good as Thanos, you know, or she wasn't.
Yeah, we beat Thanos. They beat Thanos. Really, what's he gonna do? Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Yeah, power wise and, you know, motivation wise.
Of course.
Yeah, backstory wise. So,
I mean, but the fact is, I mean, even then, right? Thanos took his toll. Like, Thanos left me with the question of what villains have I seen or read or watched on TV who have won in some way, shape, or form over the years since I was a kid, since I've been reading comics, since I've been watching television, right? I mean, but did Thanos win in the end? This is a spoiler if you haven't seen Endgame. No. In the end, they came back. But at the same time,
even though they had to cheat to win.
They had to cheat to agreed, and they had 1 out of 642 million possibilities, whatever that was, which we've talked about in previous podcasts. Annoyed the shit out of me, but
yeah, which I still personally think is BS. But yes, continue.
Yeah. So, but regardless, take Peter Parker, take Panther, take Wasp, take all the disappeared, all the ones who were lost between Endgame and Infinity War, right?
Yep.
And that's 5 years. I mean, there were people who were gone for 5 years. The planet continued, the universe continued for 5 years onward without these people, as if Thanos had won. You know, it's as if you go back to World War II, for example, and it's like Hitler won, and then 5 years later, you say, okay, that's all. No, we figured it out. We just cheated Hitler. We're bringing everybody back. Everybody who had been eliminated, and God forbid, I mean, the camps that had happened, the concentration camps, every battle in World War II that had happened. I mean, the millions of soldiers, the millions of people that died. Bring them all back 5 years later. Is there a toll? Absolutely. That hasn't been explored. You saw it. You saw just a fraction of it. When you see Ant-Man walking around and like, what's happened here? So there is a toll that's been exacted, and I guess so. That's my question. I'm going to put that question to you. Go back in your mind. I've made some notes here of the stuff that I've watched, and I'm not your average TV watcher. I know people watch a ton of TV, especially in COVID now, especially in quarantine time. But even before quarantine, you've chastised me for not watching enough TV, and quite frankly, I've acted in more horror stories, for example, than I've watched. But go back to your own library of what you know, and if you can, tell me where, in your mind, the villain has taken a toll like that, or quite frankly won at some point, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, whether it's comic books, something that left you after reading the comic and putting it down, after reading a book perhaps and putting it down, after turning off the episode, like saying, oh wow, and like it just ruminating with you.
So taking a step,
and this isn't just superheroes. I've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. I mean, Death Note was kind of like that for me, but keeping it within superheroes, Watchmen, definitely.
That was so dark. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And
right.
I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know how the original Watchmen comic ends / the movie. But in case you don't spoilers, but it turns out that Ozymandias has been pretty much controlling the situation from the beginning and using genocide to bring the world together, and he more or less succeeds. And that just really changed my outlook on it, as Alan Moore had intended, on exactly what like heroism and right and wrong even means.
Sure.
And
and he's doing what Thanos did, basically. I mean, the universe is smaller in the Watchmen. He's looking at the planet Earth, but he's basically, his point is that nations are not coming together unless there's a threat like there is now, and it takes this much loss of people for nations to say, this is what we're going to do.
And the scary part is that you see exactly where he's coming from. Like, there's no question. Like, yeah, you know exactly what he's talking about because of how messed up the world is and has been.
By exposing me, you would sacrifice the peace so many died for today.
Peace based on a lie.
But peace, nonetheless.
He's right. Exposing Adrian would only doom the world to nuclear destruction again.
No. We can't do this.
On Mars, you taught me the value of life. If we hope to preserve it here, we must remain silent.
Because there's no sign of, countries across the world just magically learning to cooperate and work together. They need a common enemy.
Right.
And the only way to really bring people together like that is to make them kind of feel the same pain.
You and I are the same. We're both motivated by our desire for peace and justice. The justice that I have delivered against the Leaf Village is no different from what you are trying to do to me. Everyone feels the same pain when losing something dear. You and I have both experienced that pain. You strive for your justice, and I strive for mine. We're both just ordinary men who have been driven to seek vengeance in the name of justice. And if one comes to call vengeance justice, such justice will only breed further vengeance and trigger a vicious cycle of hatred.
And so, you can definitely see where his mind went. And then, you have the fact that Rorschach, Rorschach, yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Even though it would technically make things worse, to him, the right thing to do was still telling people the truth.
He's still, he doesn't care. Right. He wants to bring, he's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right, and just his moral compass is so strict and unbending that even the thought of world peace, at the expense of the truth, is unacceptable, and he died for it. He was evaporated on the spot. And I remember watching that scene in the movie because I saw the movie before I read the comic. And I remember thinking,
the comic is darker than the movie.
Yeah, I think they leave out a lot of stuff in the movie. I mean, of course, since the comic is freaking huge. But
and let it be known, we're talking about the director, the same director who brought us Dawn of Justice, right? the infamous Schneider cut that everyone is clamoring for. This is where that darkness came from. This is the guy who wants the world to be always raining, who wants dramatic music to be happening behind every restaurant scene, right? Every moment where two people are having Chinese food or talking in an apartment or walking on the street. Yeah, it's that kind of heavy drama that he brings, and that entire movie was that, which it was cool for that.
Absolutely. And the scene where Zod dies and the scene where Rorschach dies are almost the same scene.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. It's weird.
Yeah. Exact Snyder, man.
I'm gonna bring this down to real life. These things, the elements in that in what is that character's name? The villain of Watchmen, the superhero turned villain at the end. You said Ozymandias?
Yes.
That character. I mean, those concepts. But by the way, we need to get into the TV series too. That's in Starz, right? Is that HBO? Yeah.
I wanted to do that one with you a while ago.
Yeah, that's got to come. We got to do that ASAP. I started watching it. I need to finish it. Also, Jeremy Irons. Oh my God, one of my favorite villain and actors of all time. Die Hard 3. So Simon Gruber. Yeah, I've got to get into it. That will come. We're gonna do that ASAP, and I'm gonna watch that. You know what? I'm gonna. That's being launched to the top of the list. But that character, Ozymandias, the concepts, the things, I mean, even Thanos to an extent. There are people who are alive today. There are politics. There are humans who have been behind the wars that have been fought on this planet. Okay, that brought us to the point of nuclear war. And there were bombs that were dropped, right? 2. Specifically in Japan, that ended the wars. And I wrote a paper on this when I was in college, and it was just a fraction of the knowledge of just a bit of research. I was happy to, I was excited to do it because I was so fascinated by this topic, but the if I understand it correctly, the motivation to using that sort of firepower was to say, okay, this war has done enough damage to the planet and it's going to continue. How do we stop it?
It looks like the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president both agree on the concept of maintaining a dominant nuclear arsenal. They are big on the nuclear deterrent theory. The idea behind a nuclear standoff is that both countries would be too afraid to use a nuclear weapon for fear of a nuclear reprisal. In other words, the only thing preventing a country from totally devastating another country with nuclear weapons is the fear of a nuclear counterstrike. Those two probably feel that Metal Gear will further promote that security.
Right. Up until that point, if I understand correctly, military installations were to be neutralized, supply lines were to be disrupted, right? And if you were going to take collateral damage, it was in a town where the enemy was putting that town at risk, right? Let's say, for example, I'm in South Florida right now, and we're at war with Canada. Shits and giggles, right? And the United States says, all right, Canada's not going to go as far south to South Florida to disrupt our supply lines, right? But we're building the highest tech planes ever in South Florida, and the factories are here. So the United States places them here, and Canada says, fuck it, we're dropping a bomb there, and we don't care how many people are going to die, right? So they took that risk, and that's how, if I understand correctly, it's how the United States ended the war in Asia at that time, in Japan.
Ending the war was one effect, but the impact that it had on the actual people in Japan was like a whole other animal. So aside from just like physically destroying, these two cities, there was also the hell on earth that it gave to these people who had nothing to do with the war as well. Right. Like, you had people like literally melting and like falling apart. People who were miles away from the actual detonation, like right. just from the radiation, like they were literally like melting and falling apart like zombies. Yeah. And even for people who survived like the initial attack, the rest of their lives were pretty much living hells because of the radiation poisoning slowly and painfully destroying their bodies over the course of their lives. They weren't allowed to work because people were afraid of the radiation poisoning that these people were carrying. There was terrible. Yeah, it was like, even because even the people who weren't Japanese who were living in Japan were also part of it. Like, I was reading this book on Hiroshima, and one of the people that the book follows is, I believe, a German pastor who was living in Japan, and pretty much from the day that the bomb went off to the day that he died, like, the guy was in constant pain because his body was just constantly like just ripping itself apart. There was just like millions of examples of people who just their life pretty much ended that day. So that goes back into like ending the war versus like destroying the lives of these people who have nothing to do with the war. And I think that fits so well within the theme that right. we're going with today. It's like weighing the option, like, is one worth the other?
Right.
Yeah, man.
So So that the balance you're talking about, the question of is one factor worth the other? How far are you willing to go? How far is the hero willing to go? In history, when I was in college and I was reading and in high school initially about World War II history and getting into this stuff, that was fascinating how far that the planet had gone and how far the United States had gone with the Manhattan Project. And that was the name of the guy, wasn't that Dr. Manhattan, right?
Yes,
wasn't that
was.
right? So, I mean, the connections are clearly there, but the bringing it down to an individual struggle. The first time I recall going far back, and kind of there are comics that did it. There are cartoons cartoon movie we talked about. I think we talked about Transformers, the animated film, as a voice-over. Specifically, I referenced Orson Welles, but in that Transformers animated film, when Optimus Prime dies in the first 15 minutes, I was like, wait, what? Like, characters, our protagonists can be killed? What do you mean, Optimus Prime? Like, he's been my leader, like, since I was 2 years old or something, since I could watch TV, and now he's dead? What is it? Is this possible? But
yeah, you're like, wait, that can happen?
Yeah. I think I was 6 or 7 years old when that movie came out. I was like, this is unbelievable, and the movie was awesome. That's very high on my rewatch list. But that's just earth-shattering, taking out and pulling the rug out of your childhood, if you will. But fast forwarding to being a young adult and really exploring that struggle of, okay. It's like Batman, like the Joker always, and I've got a couple of notes here where the Joker flat out makes it clear. He's like, all right, Bats, you're going to keep coming at me. I'm going to make you, this is going to cost you, and it's going to cost you dearly. And we know those costs, they come out eventually. They come out in the comic books, they come out in the movies. Some of them are filmed, some of them are seen. Like time and time again, the Joker does that to him, right? And other villains do as well. But before that, before I started reading the comic, before I got into the cartoon, before I started seeing that, like what Batman constantly goes through, was the movie Seven. If you remember that, did you see that? Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
That was which one?
Seven. The movie Seven. Seven Deadly Sins.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's 2 murders away from completing his masterpiece.
Let's finish it.
Okay. Yeah. Where Brad Pitt as the, if I remember correctly, he's the hotshot detective. I haven't seen that movie in so long. But he's like the hotshot young detective that's going to solve the case. He's going to break the case. Then you got a cool-headed Morgan Freeman that's on his side saying like, all right, this is going to be tough. This one's going to be a tough one. Sure enough, you get to the end, and he solves the crimes. But the end of the movie, this is a major spoiler, where it's not what he had hoped for. Is the cost. Sure, he brings... it's so good, I don't even want to spoil it. I want to go back and watch it. I haven't seen the movie in so long, but the end of the movie, obviously, he solves someone who's committing 7 deadly sins to just a completely terrible level, bringing them to these detectives, and at the end, it's at such a cost to that character. I don't want to spoil it. It's so fucking good, but I was like, damn, this is, oh my God, this is what life is about. These are the decisions one has to make as a hero. I don't want to fucking do this,
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta go back and watch that too. It was on my watch list for a while, and I think they took it off Netflix. But Yeah,
that's why Netflix stock is so high as of late.
But yeah, I guess to take it back to comics, one villain that I always found quite interesting as well.
Sure.
And we might have even talked about this before, but Doctor Doom, right? So,
yeah.
Doctor Doom's career in supervillainry has been a very unique one.
Okay.
Quite different from almost any other villain that I can think of. And I think even at one point Stan Lee said that Doctor Doom is his favorite Marvel character.
Okay.
Which is saying something.
Sure.
Like, considering how many of them he's made.
Right.
But yeah, I can see the appeal because Doctor Doom is a villain character who one doesn't consider himself a villain really, because I mean, to him he's absolutely correct. Like there's no way that Doom is wrong. Like everyone should listen to Doom.
What is the country? What is the country that he rules?
Latveria.
It is Latveria. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
It has rolled around in my brain for so long that I thought it was an actual country for a moment. Okay, but yeah. Just for backstory, Doctor Doom is what Black Panther is to Wakanda, but in a completely villainous sense to Latveria. He is the ruler of this Eastern European nation that is sovereign has no ties to any other countries there, but does anything and everything he can as basically Iron Man. He's kind of like if Iron Man was president of an East European nation.
Yeah, which is a thing. Like I believe it's called Infamous Iron Man.
Yep.
Where Doom becomes Iron Man, and yeah, that's the whole thing, is him, being the leader of a country also adds to it, because now he has diplomatic immunity, so he can pretty much just walk around the US and kind of do what he wants. And if anyone tries to step to him, he's like, diplomatic immunity. And yeah,
he plays the old Lethal Weapon 2 card.
Yeah.
Drop an asshole!
Roger. Diplomatic immunity.
It's just been revoked.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's one thing that's interesting about the character. Another thing that's interesting about the character is the combination of magic and science, which makes such a diverse range of stories that can and have been told with the character. But between him going head to head with the Fantastic Four and all these weird science adventures, all these weird Rick and Morty science adventures that the Fantastic Four get into, versus him squaring off with Mephisto and Ghost Rider and all the other supernatural characters. And to the point where he's going up against Dracula, and like he has a piece of Jesus's cross inside of his armor so that vampires can't get him. Like there's so much with the character, and he's also like a genius level intellect, so he has just a massive well of knowledge of science and the occult that makes him like an all-around threat.
Right.
And yeah, and so the whole thing about Doom is that he has all of this wealth of skills and abilities and all this stuff, that coupled with his indomitable will and his pretty much endless self-confidence, and that makes for just like such a charismatic character that you can really get behind, even when they are in like a goofier story and they just want like stupid stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't know if there's ever been a time where he's like robbed the bank, but like something of that vein.
Sure.
But yeah, even to the point where Dr. Doom has gone up against the Panther God of Wakanda, Bast, and normally, going up against a human, she would, be able to take him down. But seeing, like, she literally looked into Dr. Doom's heart, and she's like, so I know that you're technically a villain, but like you just believe in yourself so much that I can't really call you a villain. Like, you're kind of just doing what you stand for, dude. Yeah. And so she lets him go. So like that's
unlike Thanos, you're saying, I mean, it's true. He's got this governmental immunity. He's got this power that goes beyond that a government can't cross. But I hate to cut you off. I think we need to spot check real quick. I'm going to take a moment here, if you don't mind. We'll come back in just a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Hang on. We'll jump back and take a quick break. Thanks, folks. Stick with us. Good evening. Thank you for listening, folks. Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Korsunski Legal Group. They are located conveniently on East 22nd Street in Brooklyn. Feel free to give them a call at 718-758-4755 for any of your legal needs, especially personal injury needs if you're involved in any sort of motor vehicle accident, or any of your no-fault collection needs. They are the ones to call. They treat me like family, and as a result, they will treat you like family. Thank you to Korsunski Legal Group. Thanks for the quick spot check, folks. I appreciate the patience. It's we've got these moments here and there when we're recording over 2 states, but thank you for sticking with us. Where were we? I think you tell me, EK.
So let's see. We left off on Dr. Doom, and so
yes,
let's jump over to
the sovereign immunity of Dr. Doom and how he can do what he does.
Yes,
and the Avengers cannot fuck with him. Fantastic Four cannot fuck with him. Spider-Man cannot take him out.
At least legally, they can. But that's the one thing about being one cool thing about being a hero is that you don't exactly have to play by the rules most times.
Right.
So I think that we can jump over to DC. And
how exciting!
Yeah, and let's see. There's like a few DC villains that I actually wanted to talk about. One of them being sort of the I guess legacy of DC movie villains, and then also like another very specific villain that that I think is like starting to get a lot of love, but I still think could use more. But anyway, so I'll start with the movies, right? So one major difference between the Marvel movies and the DC movies, aside from I guess the more consistent through lines, I guess, is like the quality of villains. So in the past, there were a bunch of they had all the Superman movies, they had all the older Batman movies, right? Val Kilmer, Clooney, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, the original, yeah.
Right. And the villains in those movies were more akin to their, I guess, golden age comic book versions, where they didn't really have lives so much as they were kind of just obstacles for the heroes to get around. In some cases, like with Jack Nicholson's Joker, for example, like there actually is some some level of depth of the character that you can glean through all the grandstanding. But once the Nolanverse took off, then that's when DC and I would say even Marvel really started to like reflect on these movie villains and like really give them a story that you can relate to. So you have in Batman Begins you have Scarecrow, and you understand that he's not really well in the head, like he has like a very specific psychosis going on, which ties into the, I guess, layout of Batman villains as a whole, is that all of them are sick in some form. Like they all have some sort of psychosis that makes them do the things that they do. Batman included, like he also has a psychosis that makes him do strange things. Then they don't really have a choice in the matter. Like that's just how their brains are set up. So that's kind of the case for Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow, as well in Batman Begins, and they try and make you understand that.
It's an affliction. It's something that they cannot overcome, and it seems to not be affected or addressed by Arkham Asylum. They just get put in there, and that's it.
Right.
You think Hugo Strange is attempting to do something, right? Trying to figure them out, but he's not. So.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to, we can talk about, Ledger's Joker all day, but that's another one where they really did a deep dive into the character. And then you have even as much as I hate Leto's Joker, Leto dove into the character just the same. The little bit of reports that we have about him on set, or interacting with the other actors, was him really stepping into the character and doing that method program where he is Joker nonstop when he was on screen for 15-20 minutes to the dismay of many fans. But as far as I'm concerned, I was okay with it. So yeah, I'm
not going to take away from his job. I'm not going to take away from what he gave to the role. So they painted a picture of the Joker, and he jumped in and did a hell of a job with it. It's just I wasn't a fan of it. So
yeah, and I mean, there's even more footage that wasn't released of of that Joker, and the way, like, the direction that they took that Joker was similar to how they treated like a few other characters in the DCEU, which is where they'll sort of create their own special version of the character that for the most part doesn't tie into anything else specific, but they try and take it in a slightly different direction.
And the DC extended universe or entertainment universe, whatever they're calling it, right?
Right. And so yeah, you'll have several characters that sort of fall out of the normal boundaries of their comic book or source material counterparts. So like, for example, with with Leto's Joker, they hint that he actually does care about Harley to some degree.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me! No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me! No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me! No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me! No
Whereas, you know, the actual Joker, he really couldn't care less about Harley as anything aside from a tool to be used. Or,
sure.
Like literally the only thing that he cares about is Batman and messing with Batman. That's it. Like,
all right.
Yeah, there's nothing else that means anything to him. So
just like Ledger's Joker said in The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to kill you. You complete me. It was such a great line.
Exactly. And so yeah, so you have characters like that, and then you have, you know, other characters like jumping back into the Nolan verse. Then you have, you know, Bane, who, you know, represents a societal underbelly that, you know, is very present in the world. So with the Nolan verse, it really tried to show you these I guess you can call them ugly truths about the society, and, you know, how people are you know, being used in one way or another, how society is busted, ABC. And then of course they jump back into that with the new Joker movie with Phoenix.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. That jumping in is an understatement. It defines the role, defines the movie, the character, the plot. Right. Everything is about the psychological trauma gone wrong.
Absolutely. So I kind of group those movies together mentally, in terms of the themes presented in the movies, right? And then so jumping into the movies that come after that, so the Snyderverse kind of takes.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear. When you're talking about the films that you're grouping together, you're grouping Joker and Suicide Squad and Nolan's Batmans, I guess, in the same villain universe in that respect. Is that what we're talking about? Where these are villains that are motivated by something that can be understood or related to?
So I'm grouping together the Nolan verse and the Phoenix Joker movie. Yeah, those four films, because of,
gotcha.
You know, their themes and pretty much the intentions of those movies.
Understood. Well, I think even to reference that world altogether, you're referencing Joker, you're referencing Ledger's Joker, you're referencing Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, but you certainly can. You cannot omit Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is what his motivation is to save Gotham by destroying it, to save a country, I guess, to save a city. I mean, it's sure we're talking once again in concepts of Thanos, of nuclear war, of Red Skull, of who else did we reference earlier in this very podcast? But it's the same sort of thing, where these are concepts that are desirable. Where he's saying, all right, we've been the impetus, we've been the savior of cities before, Rome, Constantinople, and now Gotham City, and you're the guy to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I guess with
Liam Neeson. Sorry, it slipped me for a moment. Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul. So.
Right. Yeah. And I guess with him, I had sort of forgotten his I guess motivations, but I guess it's always sort of been the purification of, in pure society for the most part.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, that also ties into all the themes that are present in that clump of movies. So, yeah, I definitely consider him part of it as well. Mm-hmm. And even Harvey Dent, even who else was in those movies?
Two-Face, the embodiment of fairness.
Yeah. And like that sort of societal frustration, that's just apparent in the movies. Like even in Joker, because there's just that feeling of like, yeah, like society is just rigged, and you can't really get to the you can't really get to a point where it's fair, because it'll just always be unfair in one way or another. But so yeah, going past those movies and into the Snyderverse, then that's where it sort of starts to shift in a different direction in terms of the villains, right? So you have Man of Steel, and the main villain of that movie is Zod, of course. Mm-hmm. And you have you have a motivation to the character where it's very it actually you can understand his motivations, right? Because
sure,
with that character, it's stated very clearly that he's a created person. Like he was made for a specific purpose, and he has to fulfill it, and that's all that gives life meaning, is protecting Krypton.
I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. And every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people. And now, I have no people.
And making a world for his people. And like now that his people are gone, he has to make a new world for his people. And of course, Earth becomes the new stage for that goal. And so yeah, you can even though the movie turns into a big CGI slugfest, like you understand like the core theme.
There's motivation. It's to save, to save what's left of Krypton.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And so when Cal stops him, when Superman stops him and destroys the world engine, hashtag World Engine Productions, you can understand his frustration that his entire purpose for living was taken away from him by another Kryptonian. And so yeah, also
by the way, that is one of my favorite storylines. What the power of what a villain can do, that is reminiscent. It brings me back to Apocalypse and X-Men Apocalypse, where Apocalypse uses Professor X to talk to the entire planet. You're anywhere you are, everywhere you are, you're sitting there and you're like, well, this voice comes into your brain all of a sudden. It's Apocalypse. But this Man of Steel, what happens there, where Zod taps into like every TV, every phone, and transmits this message and's like, all right, you guys are harboring a fugitive. I want him. I'm not gonna fuck with your planet. Just give me Superman. Give me the one you call Superman, and I'm good. That's it. We're gone. Like, I'm pretty sure in this day and age there'd be like massive internet votes
movies, like 70-80% of the populace would be like, give him Superman. That's it. We're good. That's it. Sorry, Soups. You're the guy.
The fate of your planet rests in your hands. To Kal-El, I say this. Surrender within 24 hours. Or watch this world suffer the consequences.
You know, like, it was so cool the way it was done. I love that. Like that TV, like graphic where it's like, attention, people of Earth.
Yeah,
this guy. So fun. I love that. Absolutely love that. It was so. It was done so well. I really enjoy that movie. Taking away the 35 to 48 minutes worth of destroying Metropolis. You know? So.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even mind, you know, the destructive side of the movie because, even though it's a tone, it's a shift in the movie. I think that it does represent a part of the Superman mythos that, to a degree, certain, you know, filmmakers have neglected or they haven't really gone too deep in it. And, you know, that's the power aspect of it because, Superman, he is power. Like he has super strength, super speed. He has you know, heat vision, freeze breath. Like he has all these abilities, and so, you know, a fight between two people who have these abilities and one of them who is, you know, losing his freaking mind, that fight is going to be like really big and destructive and like kind of scary because you know that's what it's supposed to look like when two gods fight each other. And so, like, I thought that the fight scenes were pretty well done in Man of Steel, like in the stuff in Smallville and the stuff in Metropolis. Like, they showed like what super speed looks like, which is dope because you know how so many movies, you know, where characters like using super speed, they like slow it down and make everything like all slow motion, especially after the Days of Future Past Quicksilver scene. Like everyone, they like literally copied that scene and put it in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and all that stuff. But they literally did.
Which it was still good. I saw it. I didn't finish Sonic, but I know what scene you're talking about. And you know what? It was still enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the entire movie, but I saw bits and pieces. But like that represents like a trend that doesn't really have to be a thing, where, you know, you have a character with super speed, but you're showing everything in slow motion. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Like, you can just let the characters be fast, and you know, like So that's another thing that I liked about, you know, the scenes with, you know, the Kryptonians, where, you know, in Smallville, you have the army trying to take out that female Kryptonian that was with Zod. I think her name was Faora or something like that. And she like just zips through all of them, like with her like these like mean martial arts moves. She's like, she's gone. So you have Aries from Wonder Woman, where with that movie, it was shaping up to be something like really special, and then sort of at the last moment, it kind of missed the landing. Because in Wonder Woman, the whole movie, they were setting up this sort of they were setting up this sort of I guess, realization for Wonder Woman, because she was coming at World War II with the mindset of a like black and white hero. So, you know, I guess for like a quick recap, Wonder Woman joins the war effort in World War II in order to stop Aries, who she believed to be controlling the humans and making them fight this war.
Right.
And then, so she, you know, battles along with Steve Trevor, I think that's his name, and
that's it.
Yeah, and the rest of his battalion in order to save humanity from what she perceives to be this sort of ulterior threat. And then it comes to the end of the movie, and then it turns out that Aries was, you know, involved in the war in a way.
Mankind stole this world from us. They ruined it day by day. And I, the only one wise enough to see it, was left too weak to stop them. All these years I have struggled alone, whispering into their ears ideas, inspiration for formulas, weapons. But I don't make them use them. They start these wars on their own.
But then it doesn't really end out how you're expecting it to, because like she does fight Aries, and you know, she does beat him, and from that point there's not really any extra, I guess, theme that's thrown into the movie. Like it's kind of like she was right, that was the whole thing. And so this whole it's weird, like the movie was hinting to you that there was going to be a twist, and the twist is that there is no twist.
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
It's really weird, because like the whole time we were expecting her to finally realize that no, like there's no like other reason that humans are awful. They just are because they are.
Right.
They fight wars just because of, you know, reasons that they have, as opposed to being controlled.
Right.
Which would have been like a really interesting thing for the character to reflect on, because this whole time, like, she's been coming at it with like such a pure mindset. Like, she's such a like pure and like straightforward character that it would have been interesting for her to sort of really grapple with the morality of, you know, humanity as a whole. But it never really gets to that point, and so that's where it kind of like, you know, takes a turn for the worse. And so yeah.
Well, I mean, for the worse, but it was still good. You enjoyed that round.
I mean, even like the fight at the end was a little like, like I've seen better. Like it wasn't bad, but I just feel like there was like a better movie, like just right below the surface. You know what I mean? It's like they were like right there.
Between Wonder Woman, Justice League, even Suicide Squad, Dawn of Justice, you've got villains that leave you wanting more. They don't have Man of Steel would be the differential.
Yeah.
The Nolan Batmans are different. Maybe the next Batman is going to be different. We'll see. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you're hitting upon a place that the DC universe is missing, at least the DC extended or the DC cinematic universe, where those characters are not developed enough. Or not. I mean, Suicide Squad I liked, actually, but I know people have their issues. I know you did. But yeah, there's a unifying theme that the villains need to have been more. Not it's kind of what you said. It's the badass ometer. It shows you how good our protagonists are.
Yeah,
I like Shazam. I don't know, the Shazam. I kind of thought that I enjoyed the beginning of that character and the end of that character, because that character goes from he's his brother, right? Isn't he from the get-go? That Shazam's spoiler alert here at this point in the pod, but I forgot which actor played the character, but I know Black Adam is supposed to be coming in the sequel. But in this Shazam origin story, I liked where that character came from, where that villain was a part of Shazam's childhood.
Black Adam, you mean?
Billy, right? Was it Black Adam? Yeah, Billy Batson. Yeah. I mean, in the first movie, that character, I love that he goes that far back, and there's this pursuit of this power that's starting from the beginning, and this recognition from childhood that this kid is like, all right, you know what? I want that power. I want to be the bad guy. Like, all right, I'm 8 years old. I'm not the good guy. I'm going to be the bad guy. And he's like, that's it. I'm going that way. Let me ask you. At the beginning of this, you said that there's a DC character that they've hit upon that they haven't gotten to yet, and that they're seemingly coming to. I have an idea. I'm wondering if who I'm thinking of is who you're thinking of. And do you know what I'm talking about? You referenced it at the beginning of this podcast.
Who do you think I'm thinking of?
Deathstroke.
Who? Oh, Deathstroke?
Deathstroke, yep.
No, that's not who I'm thinking of.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And the other one is Darkseid. The other one's Darkseid. I'm hoping for Darkseid because he's been built up for all this time, and they're basically, but it's just too close to Thanos, you know. But the difference between Thanos and Darkseid is Darkseid wants to take over planets instead of Thanos trying to get rid of planets. But you tell me. I was thinking my initial thought was Deathstroke.
Okay.
Just because I love him.
Even though I do definitely want to, talk about those. I would want to talk about those characters as well, because with Deathstroke, there's a lot mixed in there that's like just really interesting to, pick apart.
Right.
And Darkseid has just always been really interesting to me, because I always wondered how he could lose when he's like so powerful but anyway. The character that I was actually thinking of was Killer Croc.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But he's been cast though. He's been in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and that's like that's pretty much like an OG Batman villain.
You are not welcome here.
I'm not here to fight you, Croc. Let me pass.
Your scent is different. I smell death on you. I don't need to fight you, Batman. I just need to wait, and then I will feed on your corpse.
Killer Croc, right?
Sure.
He's like the big green scaly dude, and he eats people, and sometimes he steals things, and that was his whole deal, right? For decades, I would say. And then, I guess after his tenure on the Suicide Squad, because of course he was drafted into the Suicide Squad, and they made him go on missions for Amanda Waller and Black Ops government stuff,
right?
So that he wouldn't have his head blown up. And then over time, they've been starting to explore more about like Killer Croc as a person, because I guess just for backstory, Croc, he grew up in sort of an abusive household, and he was born with this scaly reptile skin and sharp teeth, and he was born as a very I guess scary looking child, and because of that, nobody accepted him, not even his own alcoholic aunt. And so when he got older, he was put into a freak show, like a circus, and they made him wrestle alligators. And then the ringleader, the ring master, tried to like rip him off, and then that was the first guy he ever killed. And then he's been doing it ever since, and his whole outlook on life is like, well, if people are going to treat me like a monster, then I might as well act like one. And that was his whole deal, right? So after his tenure on Suicide Squad, then it kind of started to take a retrospective look at him as sort of like this more tragic character. And it's like, wow, this guy really can't catch a break in life ever, right? And so you have different instances of Croc being the person who is outside of his criminal life. So, he lives in the sewers of Gotham for the most part, right?
Okay.
And so, also in the sewers of Gotham are like a bunch of homeless people, and they live there, and Croc also lives there. And I'm pretty sure that there was a story where, I forget the exact details of this story, but there was someone that was about to kill the homeless people down in the sewers, and Croc protected them. And so from that time on, he sort of became their leader and their protector. And yeah, to the point where, like, he finally felt like he had some sort of acceptance in his life. And Batman would come into the sewers looking for something, and then Croc would point him in the right direction, and you have moments like that,
right?
Then you have like a different moment where Roy Harper, the Red Arrow / Arsenal,
okay,
and Green Arrow's old sidekick, pretty much, right? So it's pretty well known that Roy has a drug problem, or at least he did at one point. And so Roy has always struggled with this sort of self-hatred, and he's sort of struggled with himself as a person. And so one time he ended up in Gotham, and I'm pretty sure he was like drunk or something like that. And so he started like picking a fight with Croc, and Croc was like, the heck are you doing? And Roy was like, come on, bring it. So, like, he was like trying to
okay.
Yeah, he was trying to get Croc to like fight with him. And Croc was like, no, I don't think I will, because I can tell that you are trying to commit suicide right now, and I don't think I'm gonna let you. And so Roy and Croc end up having like this really deep conversation, and then from that point on, like, Arsenal and Killer Croc are kind of just friends after that. And
that's cool.
Yeah, they're buds. And Roy comes back like once he's sobered up and he's got his stuff together, and he helps Croc out with something else. So you have like moments like that where Croc, he kind of just understands what it's like to be down and out, And then even after that, you have moments in the comics where Croc is trying to get his life back on track. Like, he's done with crime, and he's trying to apply for jobs, right? But obviously no one wants to give him a job because, one, he's an ex-con, two, he doesn't really have a great resume. Like, all he really like all he
looks scary.
All he really has is alligator wrestling and crime. Like, that's all that's on his resume. And then three, he's a scaly man creature. So yeah, he's trying to go to all these job interviews. He has like a suit and everything. He's going all these job interviews and.
I was wondering. When we started talking about Deathstroke. I know. I forget. I always forget the name of the actor. Joe Manganiello. A few years ago he was slated to play him in a spin-off at some point. I was thinking of characters or actors who I would like to see play Deathstroke.
Don't feel bad. It was never gonna work. You depend on others for your strength. I depend on no one. You should have stayed away. Now, you're gonna die with your friends.
Dad!
I have a couple on my list here that I was thinking of. But Bautista is who comes up initially because he's big and he's menacing, and I freaking loved him in Skyfall, and I've everything I've seen him in so far. He's awesome. I mean, granted, Drax is a different. He does a very comedic, over the top take on Drax, but the guy's got depth. He's funny. He's cool, and in Skyfall, he was a badass, So, was he in Skyfall? Yeah, it was Skyfall, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so I was like, damn, he would be a cool Deathstroke. I would like him. I don't want to see Deathstroke's face a lot either. So, but if I need to, I don't mind seeing his. I guess is what I'm thinking of. So. There are some other ones, but and I hate the cross the casting of worlds in that respect, where you've had Thanos now played by Brolin, who also played Cable, and then he also played Jonah Hex, which we talked about not too long ago, which nobody knows about apparently. But sure, there's a number of actors out there who I think could do it, but I'm certainly not against casting a wrestling actor to play these characters. So they've been acting their whole lives anyway.
True. I can dig it.
Yep. So it looks like we could talk. Villains all day. I think there's more to get into when it comes to DC villains, especially in the way of Deathstroke and Darkseid and others. There's other ones here on my list that I took note of. Lobo, we didn't even talk about, which he's not really a villain, but is he? He is kind of a villain at times. But yeah.
This is a good place to wrap up for today.
All right.
Thanks to anyone who got this far in the episode.
And thank you and as always, thank you to our sponsors. we do appreciate that.
Appreciate everyone. And check us out on Instagram, Twitter at Essentiallyheroes, and check us out on Spotify, iTunes.
That's right.
Or wherever else you get podcasts, YouTube. Because we upload everywhere.
That's right. And shout out to me on Johnny Farris at Instagram. I put up something recently where I was extending beyond the world of superheroes, where I was wondering if there's some buzz about Henry Cavill being the next James Bond. So this is now the Superman as we know it could possibly be James Bond of today going forward, the next Bond post Craig. And I'm wondering what people think, considering that Roger Moore was initially contemplated during Connery, and Timothy Dalton was also contemplated during Roger Moore. So we've got an undertaking of understudies. So by way of James Bond, by way of the James Bond world, and Henry Cavill auditioned for this James Bond alongside Craig years ago. So I hope he gets it. I like him.
And I'm pretty sure that it's looking like you'll end up being our, non-comic correspondent. So between Star Wars, what else? I don't know. Whatever else you're into, you can.
James Bond, Transformers, sure.
Yes, Transformers, everything. Yeah. You can be our window into the outside world.
By all means.
If they bring back Indiana Jones, you'll probably jump on that too.
By all means. Well, I'll take us there. Absolutely. Let's face it. Like I said to you in a recent text, James Bond, Batman. I mean, Batman's not a superhero. He's a hero, you know. But the reality is that what these characters can do are superheroic things. So.
Very true.
Yep.
Very true.
Without
very
the powers.
And
all right.
Yeah, and I guess if anyone who watches our Let's Plays is watching, you know, thanks for the support on our on our recent videos. We really appreciate that as well.
Keep up, keep it up, keep it up, keep watching. There's more to come from these guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great night or day or in between, and
stay safe.
Yeah, take care. Stay safe.